That's a Mini 2.
Are you sure? No, he said Mini 3 Pro.
Yeah, Mini 3 Pro. Because it does the vertical. And it shows like, oh, you can do vertical too. So I'm like, yeah.
Really?
Am I really? And it was like,
You're talking.
Okay.
Yeah, 48 megapixels.
Yeah. Oh, what? You don't think I can read or something?
No, it's just we're in disbelief that Costco had it this soon because they take forever to get.
Campbell.
You hear that? Hanali's calling you out. He's calling you public.
Yeah, who's your daddy? Who's your daddy?
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. And then the batteries last forever too. Like.
Well, I'll just try it. If not, then I can always return it back.
Yeah.
Been returning some old ass shit from Costco.
Yes, sir.
As long as it's not electronics.
Hey, well, at least it wasn't like the pizza box the lady next to me was returning.
Wait, what? Are you kidding me?
It was too salty.
It was a pizza. She had the box. It was folded, everything.
Nah.
And she just said, it was too salty. And I was like, I feel good. At least I'm returning the product.
Right.
Oh, what?
I can't believe
She
it.
returned the box?
A box. An empty box.
And you said, well, where's the pizza?
She just gave the lady the box and said it was too salty.
We're about to do a podcast. He's getting all
Well, this should be
legit with this setup.
See, this thing's in the way.
What's a podcast?
When do you want me to take
Oh,
that
he wants
down?
me to
Huh?
explain
When do you want me to take that down?
Bro, take it down.
the network drive setup.
You got any little...
But he's doing kind of just a creative podcast thing. I don't
For
know
the
exactly
wires,
what it
right?
is,
Yeah.
but
Because we just have to turn off the breaker and then...
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I was like,
See you guys later.
turn off the
okay,
breaker.
shoot.
Let me match it. I'm just gonna actually do it. I'm just gonna put the light over there.
Getting it set up. And there might be some settings you might be able to change to get it even better. You know how you were saying like, oh, is it the monitor that's looking kind of fuzzy?
Yeah.
Like there might be some stuff, but we'd have to go through the camera a little bit. Because actually, if you set your camera to 4K,
Mm-hmm.
same frame rate,
Yeah.
then it might come out even cleaner.
I see.
As long as it's outputting at 1080-60.
Okay. There we go.
Hey, how's this? Is this good quality? The
It
sound?
is, but see, I don't like not being able to not monitor it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the F2 as well, but like at least the F2 got 32-bit.
Yeah.
This one doesn't.
What is it, 16?
Yeah. Or
Or
I
8-bit
don't
or
even
something
know.
like
It's
that.
like something that too many times I've gotten it after the fact.
Uh-huh.
Fuck, I wasn't listening.
Was it like too high or too low?
or
like...
somebody like just
Oh,
a little bit, so
yeah.
it's like left or right only, or it just comes with not being able to monitor.
Yeah, because I wanted to get a recorder just for worst case scenario.
Yeah.
To just like do the speaker or something, you know, like in front of the speaker, like the actual speaker itself, you know.
Yeah.
And just have it record just so I have something, you know. I don't know.
Right. Better than nothing, right?
Well, because I have the Rode 2s, and they go in the camera, so via HDMI, I'll get the audio with the video feed, you know, and I don't have to worry about it. But if for some reason one of the mics failed, then I would have some backup
You would
audio.
have, yeah.
Yeah. But I forgot I do have a cable that I was gonna run to the board, and then just run it straight to the A10, put a 6-second delay on it, or not 6 second, 6 millisecond delay. It's like 6 frame delay.
So that's what you figured it out to be. It's a 6
Yeah, I
frame
did
delay
the
for you?
test, the clap test.
Yeah, what were we in? So we were in.
I know, I like how it has a shelf there. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Smart, good design.
Nope.
Oh, what's
Nope.
this one?
Yep. You do the 3 finger swipes or no?
I do.
Yeah, I do too. It's like having another monitor. It's perfect.
I do it with 4 screens though.
Dude.
Because when I do the cybersecurity stuff, I have multiple things going on. So.
Crazy.
But then at the end of the day, I've got like 4 or 5 browsers with like 20, 30 tabs open and just like research galore happening. And
I thought you were going to run it at 60p.
Me too, but I forgot how to get there.
You were just there.
Really?
Yeah. Go to 60. Is the camera set to that already?
It's yeah.
And is it at 120?
Why are you shooting
125?
I don't know.
No, I was earlier.
Oh.
We don't have to. Do you want to do 30? Do you want to?
I mean, what's best for sure.
What's the output? Well, if you're not moving, 30 is fine.
Yeah, so I was just telling Glenn that
Or is fine.
a lot of creators are actually switching to 30 for their projects because most cameras don't have like 48 frames. Sometimes they have 50, but 30 divides evenly into 60. But if you take 60 and you go down to 24, it creates a staccato because it has to insert a frame every like 10 or 20 frames.
Where does that give me an option for the frame rate?
Well, I can choose frame rate. Just the actual frame rate.
No, for the out.
Oh, external out.
External out. But maybe it just does it automatic to whatever it is. So it might be fine there. But yeah, I think probably just do 30.
That's where, yeah, you see you go there.
Oh,
You go
cool.
to 30. Yeah.
Okay, so 30 there and 30 here. Mic's on.
Here.
Oh, camera audio, no. Mic 1, mic 2.
Kev audio. Matt, NAS. Getting sunned.
So does that give better audio than these?
What is that? No.
This is better?
Yeah. Those are just like backups now. H1N.
This
So,
does what's called 32-bit float. So it's a high quality standard that also doesn't have as much tendency to clip when things get really loud.
Oh. So maybe I should consider buying one of these as my backup recorder, backup audio to the
Yeah.
speaker.
Well, I have put them on a speaker though, listened to it afterwards, and it was blown out. So you still can't put it right on the speaker.
Can you drop it? Can you drop the signal?
Oh yeah, but it didn't help.
It didn't
It's
help.
like even at the low volume, it still sounded blown out just because it's so close.
Yeah.
Can you tilt that one up a little, Matt? Or Kevin? There you go.
Oh, you still got some.
There we go. Perfect. See, yeah, I'm going to have this angle, but for that,
Yeah.
for Matt. But we're good on that right now.
Just make me look skinny.
You have a LUT on? Or is that just...
No, that's what I'm saying. The screen looks kind of like,
Oh, yeah. It looks
like matted or
completely
lit.
different. That's another thing. Have you tested the recordings? Have you looked at them and stuff?
Yeah. It was,
Did they end up looking like...
yeah, it's pretty
camera?
good. But when I did it, I didn't have that setting, so I didn't have any sound. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, boop. This one goes this way.
You didn't have the ISO recording too,
No,
right?
I didn't. So,
Wait, are we live? Are we going?
we're going already. Look, so, see, well, the tech would be like cutting, right?
Right.
The angles 1 and 2, but we're recording right now.
You ever listen to the Joe Rogan Experience?
Wait, who's that?
Joe Rogan? Dude, I know you know who he is.
Yeah, like, come on. Yeah, so Jamie,
You-
right?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You need a Jamie. Or a Morty.
Or, yeah. Wait, ooh, actually, let me focus your, get by your mic.
Yeah.
You can put these on too.
Oh, all right. Oh, yeah, that's the full production.
There you go, get closer.
Check,
to the mic.
check. Oh, yeah, now I can really fall in love with my voice. All right.
Okay. So a little bit.
Check, check. 1, 2, 3. One bright day in the middle of the night, 2 dead boys got up to fight. Back to back, they fought each other, drew their swords, and shot each other.
The How do they mic check in Oregon? Jeez. All right.
Easy now.
All right. Explain this to me, man. So this is our 3rd podcast today. But Kevin was on, helped me
You're
with the
racking up
A10.
with the material.
Oh, yeah. I'm saying the output is getting Super Saiyan.
You should call this the brain dump,
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the beautiful set.
right?
I mean, whatever, right? What matters now is the repetitions.
It's the content.
And we're putting in reps. I didn't even shower yet. I'm sweaty, but we're doing it. You're going to explain to me a network attached storage. Did I get that right? NAS?
Yeah. Network attached.
That
storage.
is also the name of one of my top 5 rappers.
NAS, yeah.
Nas.
All right.
I like
It's
switching
gonna take me a
myself.
little while to get used to hearing my own voice.
So you're gonna have to use an invisible pen because I don't have a pen in this fucking studio.
It's all right.
I do.
I can explain on the fly.
Wait, no, we need.
Yeah.
We need a
Sorry.
pen.
Oh, Kevin got one.
You're gonna get to experience my beautiful artistic skills here.
So, for context. How do you like that? For context, I got a QNAP TSVX728X3. I made that up because I don't remember it. It's a 6-bay network attached storage. This purchase was solely based on my need. In my head, I was like, I need bigger storage. Like a lot of us, we have a bunch of drives, like this one. I have literally a bin in the garage that's full of these. Some are outdated. Some are from like 2012 Japan. Like some I bought in that country, some I bought in this country. 1 terabyte, 2 terabytes, 500 gigs, 8 terabytes, and they're all separated. And I wanted a singular place that I could access all of these things.
Did you ever have DV?
No, what is that?
That was back before we had stuff recording on the SD cards or hard drives because it's digital tape, digital video on tape.
So it's DV.
DV tape. They were about this big, and this was when I was in college. This is what I recorded on when I was in college.
And Matt
I'm
is
dating myself right now.
old.
Yeah.
No. We all old.
We all old, but I got the Asian genes working in my benefit, so I'm older than I look. But yeah,
I did not have DV. I did the thing where you buy a drive, you fill it up. You buy a drive, you fill it up. And then I started learning, well, I kind of want a copy. So then I was doubling up on everything that I would buy.
Right.
So I'm not buying 1 4 terabyte drive. I'm buying 2 at a time. And again, this is in my like earlier stages
because you
where
want to do backups.
that budget's not
3, 2, 1.
necessarily there. You want your minimum amount possible. I didn't have the arsenal that I had today, but it starts to add up. And I wanted to just be able to access all the stuff that I did. Let's say I wanted to go to that snowy day in Japan, and I wanted to mix that with some cool mountain shots that I got just today here in Hawaii, 10 years later, without finding the right connections. This is an old story. This is an old story that I'm sure you're familiar with. I switched to see my close up. See that?
Right.
Yeah. I'm still getting used to it too. I had a big problem. I had a lot of data that I wanted to access in a singular point.
Right.
I saw some YouTube videos. One person's like, this is the way to do it. I was like, fuck it, I'm doing it. Did it, but then I didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
So I literally bought it in October, or like it arrived, I think, in December last year. It's been sitting 6, 7, 8 months. 8, 9-ish months.
We can bleep this out, but I just gotta ask, how much did you pay for it?
Like $2K.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe it's even cheaper now. And that was just for that piece. It wasn't even for all the drives inside.
I'm gonna make you hurt a little bit, because that's a lot, and it doesn't even have any drives, and I know you don't have the ability for this, so that's why buying something like that makes sense. But you can build something far more powerful with drives for less money.
You can build something.
And I did.
How much?
Correction.
How much are we talking here? We don't need
Yeah.
made up prices, okay?
So 2K, and then each 18 terabyte Iron Wolf, whatever.
Yeah.
I think it was like, I could look it up, but I want to say like $600 each.
Yeah, easy. Yeah.
And then the catch space SSD that I got, the 1 terabyte catch space SSD. I don't even know how much that was.
Usually they're 100 to 200 depending on the speed.
More than 3K.
Yeah.
How
That-
much can Matt build one for?
Yeah, and how much can you build one for?
So I think my server right now, I've got around 40 terabytes. I think it's around 2K.
See? Well, so for...
But okay, so I'm gonna walk it back a little bit. So the difference and the advantage of what you bought versus what I bought is form factor. Those drives, easy to pop in and out.
Yeah.
Mine, I gotta take it all down. I gotta put it on the floor, take all the screws out, and wire manage the thing. It's a pain, and I'm about to do it actually because I gotta upgrade the server soon. So it's a lot more work with that. With this small form factor, less powerful processor, so less power consumption. You don't have a GPU, less power consumption, so lower electricity bill. So in a home setting like this, it makes more sense. For me, with my setup in a hot ass house out on, our street, I killed a couple drives and
from heat.
Yeah, and killed my wallet because electricity. So
are you mining Bitcoin, bro?
No. I wish I was. I wish I could,
One of the videos I came across was like, oh, what else can you do with this?
Right.
You can mine crypto.
If we're in a cold climate, then maybe it would have made sense.
Because these things are not off, right?
No.
They're on. See, that's
ideally they're on all the time.
right? And so keep in mind, I'm super grasshopper, right, to this.
Right. Oh, when you sent me the video and I saw the 169 of people address, I was like, oh, okay, I need to help my brother. This is painful. All right.
Wait, what do you mean my IP?
So yeah. So in the networking world, I was telling him this when you were gone. In the networking world, you have private addresses. When you're in a network, you have an address. It's your home. You have your router. That's your post office that divvies up the addresses to everyone. And you have your home router, and then you have your routers or hops is what they call them out on the internet, and that gets you out to google.com, whatever.
Okay.
In your home, a private address usually starts with 192.168. Blah blah blah.
It's a giveaway.
So, and then on the internet, you might have something like 252.14 or 60. Blah blah blah. And your address, if you go on to Google, if you type in what is my IP, you'll get something like that. You'll have like a Spectrum address, right? But there's a special scenario address that starts with 169.
That's the win.
So 169 is the uncle of the networking world. It's like, hey, no one told me where to go. This is what my address is. 169. Blah blah blah.
Well, you calling me
it's
uncle
nonsense.
now?
It's a nonsense number.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even know like the user interface.
Yeah.
With these things, I get it. With these things, I get it.
Yeah.
Camera, I get it.
It's very direct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
But
I
not
totally
that.
understand.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm
So,
doing.
Yeah. So I mean, you're very technically skilled. Most of us working creative stuff, we all are. But the data side, the networking side is a whole nother world. And I know the expectation is you plug the drive in and it appears on your computer. And then you format it and away you go.
Yep. And
right?
then I start dropping files in there.
Yeah, you start dropping files and then, you walk away and you go work on the project. You come back, you plug it back in, you update it on the drive.
Yep.
Yeah.
I update my project file. I'm
That's-
good to go.
That's not how that works.
See? What did I get into?
So,
And why did you, when we came in here and I was like, all right, let's get started. You're like, whoa, before we even start touching this thing, then you went on like this thing. I was like, okay, stop. We got to record this.
yeah.
Because I feel like that's, the first thing is a mental thing. It's not even
Right.
that.
So that's why I asked you to, have this piece of paper.
All right.
Because you have to, when it comes to network attached storage and what you want to do, you have to decide before you get started, how are you going to work with it? What are you going to do with it? And what is your ultimate end goal? Because trying to walk that back later on is painful and very time consuming. Like, for instance, I've gotten my server and I've got multiple drives. And one of the options for the kind of server I spun up is you can encrypt the drives. And that way, if the computer got stolen and someone had the ability to pull the drives and try and read the data, the drives are encrypted and only the key that I know would unlock those drives. So I thought that was really cool. And I spent the time to move all of my files onto those drives that were encrypted. And then the drive that wasn't encrypted, that I encrypted, and I moved the stuff. It was hours of work, right?
Right. It's
But
kind of like a cold wallet.
yeah, but at the end of the day, like I realized, after having to reboot it multiple times and always having to put, like, if we have a power outage at my office, for instance, where my server's at, the server won't come back on automatically. I have to connect to my office, and then I have to go in and Well, so long story short, with my whole encryption thing is, after getting up and running, I realized the encryption thing was cool, but from a functionality standpoint, didn't really serve me very well, because if I had a power outage and I'm like, across town and a client asks me for a photo, my server is still waiting for me to put in my encryption code to get it spun back up. And until I connect to my office and do all that stuff, it's not going to come up. So it would be better if none of the stuff was encrypted. My server's probably not going to be stolen. So having an auto boot would be much better. And so what I'm having to do and face now is I have to now move all of my stuff off the encrypted drives, unencrypt them, then move them back, which is hours and hours and hours of work. So that's why deciding ahead of time.
Like, is that one of the decision tree branches is encrypt or don't encrypt?
Kind of. I mean, that's sort of an extreme example. For you, to me, it's more like knowing QNAP. I interface with QNAP every day with my job and and I'm not going to say who I work for because I don't want to expose myself to vulnerability.
But it's worth it saying, like, what do you do?
So
what do you do every day?
I'm a cybersecurity analyst, network engineer, and data management expert.
Excuse me. Okay, we're done.
And then I also shoot weddings on the side,
which is how we know each other.
which is how we know each other. Right?
And you were always a techie dude.
I've always been a techie dude. I've been doing computer stuff since I was 6. I was programming in BASIC, in like DOS, like I don't know 2.0, like from the time I was a little kid. And you probably didn't know any of this stuff about me. I didn't really talk about.
Well,
this.
I mean, also it would just go over my head.
Yeah.
When you see I was programming DOS 2.0, I'm like, okay.
Who's
Right.
DOS?
Yeah, like,
Right.
Gran Turismo? Like what?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? I was playing
Yeah, it's completely foreign to most people.
PlayStation or something.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of us are used to that consumer level of these kind of technologies
Right.
that are so much a part of everyday life. It's just, we're right there.
Yeah.
That's like served up by people like you
Yeah.
and the engineers and people who like think about it, developers.
Right.
We're just surface level people.
So the QNAP bridges the gap between that and something like Google Drive or Dropbox. It's putting you in this place between those two spaces
Okay.
with the technology that exists there and what you can do with it.
Okay.
So on the most basic level, you can operate it like you do with a plug-in drive. You can make it a network storage device, and the most basic network NASs, network attached storage, the most basic ones you would just connect to and copy files on and off. This can do way more than that. And it's because it's a full computer. Most network attached storage, it's a mouthful, is just a really basic chipset that is able to get a drive spun up, do privileges on the drive, and then get that on a network so you can access it from in your network. And then sometimes they would throw in like, oh, you can have a torrent client on this, and then torrent. And I used to do that with one of the ones I had, and then it killed the thing because it just didn't have enough processing power.
So when you say torrent,
That's a bad word, by the way.
why?
Don't teach your kids that word.
Why?
Torrent?
Is this like a techie joke? Like what?
No,
What?
I'm making a joke. Wait, do you not know what torrenting is?
No.
Okay.
Illegal.
It's not illegal. Torrenting is not illegal, but it's like crypto. There's many illegal things that are done with crypto every day.
Mm-hmm.
But, technically crypto is not illegal. Technically torrenting is not illegal, but most of what people do with torrenting is illegal. The Pirate Bay, that's
Okay.
a torrenting site.
Oh, okay.
And it's not you download stuff from that site. It's a place that's a repository for where the torrents are. And then you download the torrent, and then it points you to where the files and the file bits exist.
See, I feel like there's a framework needed. Like my friend who builds systems for big name artists.
Okay.
I mean, Fred. You probably heard
Yeah,
about
I
him,
know.
right?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
you
met
met
him.
him too.
I met him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Fred, Nerdmatic, Chris. I was seeing some of the documents, right? And I liked how it was organized in like a line chart. Like almost, it reminds me of this one Oracle class I took when I was in like 9th grade. Yeah, so what is this? I'm gonna age myself here, but that's 2000, I think. I don't know. Like first year of high school, we were in an Oracle class, and the first things we did, and this is like 2000, right?
Oracle. Okay.
Oracle. So the
Databasing,
yeah, for like all the things we know now that are using what Oracle built.
Yeah.
And so we were just, a lot of class was drawing like a box,
Right.
and drawing a line.
That's a flow chart.
And then, but the lines, you could put different marks in it to
Yeah.
show direction
Yeah.
or relation.
And what it's doing, yeah.
And for a long time, I was like, what are we doing?
Right.
Right? But it was similar to that, what Fred was showing me, and he's showing how this piece connects to this.
Yeah.
These are hardware pieces.
When it comes to audio,
but this
yeah,
represents some software.
Right.
This represents some relationship, speed. So it's like, it's like the key to encrypt the map.
Right.
And I feel like that's needed for NAS.
Yeah.
That's needed for like the basic level. Before I bought it, I should have like, but you know how it is.
You don't know.
Figure it out.
You don't
figure
know
it
what you
out.
don't know. Yeah.
So like understanding how that works, how the data flows. For me, I like the visualness of it.
Right.
So understanding how the system works, and it's not just a big ass hard drive like how I was treating it when I bought it. It's more like a computer.
Right. Yeah. So
And
that's what I was
even
saying
the
earlier.
placement of it, I was like, I guess it doesn't need to be right here.
No, it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
I mean, one, it's upstairs and it's hot up here. Those are going to be running all the time. Heat is your number one enemy in tech. So being downstairs is better for that.
Okay.
In terms of network transfer speed, not so much of a positive being downstairs, but you could run along Ethernet or, USB-C if that is functional. Like I said, I've never done USB connections to a QNAP, so I don't know how that functions. But yeah, you could downstairs, have a cable tucked away that, when you're ready to do some transferring, you plug it in and tell the girls, stay away.
So I could do that then, as far as workflow?
Yeah.
Or is it simple as I have a folder on my desktop that I just drag everything into?
Okay, so
There we go.
this is
Yeah,
where
but-
the drawing
yeah,
starts.
okay.
So I'm gonna be really rudimentary about this.
I'll do it.
So this is
We'll link this up on the website that doesn't exist.
This is your laptop. Yeah. So
Matt didn't go to school for drawing.
nope. I went to school for film, and then you got your, NAS drive.
Okay. 6 bay
Right.
NAS.
So you could, just directly through your wireless connect. Actually, I meant to do like this and then like that. So back and forth. You could just connect directly back and forth. Create your folder tree, do your organization, do it like this, and it's basically a network version of directly connecting the drive.
But it's Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi or hardwired, whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe I forget what the USB symbol is or something like this.
There's
I don't know.
probably one on here. There it is. There it is.
Close. Okay. Not
like I
too
tried
far
it.
away.
Yeah.
I maybe did it backwards. I'm dyslexic, so whatever. So yeah, you can do that direct connection like that, right?
Okay.
And like I was explaining earlier, connecting to that is basically like connecting to a computer. If we didn't have transport media and you needed to get to my laptop, I had a project on there, I would create what's called a Samba share or an NFS, whatever, some kind of share that you would connect to with your computer, and then you could pull
On
the
what?
data.
When you say connect to on what? Like, what am I clicking on?
Wireless. So in a network, like I was saying earlier, everything has a network address, right?
169 or whatever.
169 is
Wait.
a PIPA.
Wait, that's
Yeah, so 169 is the
192.
yeah, 192 is what you're looking for.
192.
So yeah, typically home addresses is going to be your private address is going to be 192.168 dot something 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 dot something something something. And so if I had my laptop here and I connected to your Wi-Fi,
yeah.
your router downstairs
Yeah.
would assign me an address. And if I wanted to double check my connectivity in this network,
Yeah.
I could get the IP address for your phone or for your laptop, and I could do what's called a ping and ping it.
Right.
And
Okay.
it would come back and tell me, hey, I saw someone there. And I could type other commands and find out other information if I wanted to.
Okay.
So your QNAP is the same way. It's another computer.
Okay.
But the way it's designed is it has some services built into it. So it's going to have a web interface.
Okay.
That's where you're going to control things.
So I'm opening up like a browser,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in that web interface, you would, set up the drives, you would set up your shares, you would set up users, privileges, all kinds of like really basic, simple network storage things.
I've done that on Google Workspaces.
Yeah, so it's very similar.
Freaking.
It's kind of a nightmare sometimes, but it's very similar.
Okay.
But that's a very base level thing.
Okay.
And so that would be, this drawing, right?
Okay.
So this is what probably I want to say like 60% of creators out there with NASs do.
Okay.
So
we trying to be that.
They understood they needed larger storage and 2 dozen SSDs and Costco 8 terabyte special, right?
Yeah.
So then
no, I can't return it. No, yeah.
So they got this NAS, or a friend helped them set it up.
Yeah.
And then they're doing this.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that. That's great, right?
Okay.
But you expressed to me goals beyond this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is where your decision tree making happens.
Okay.
And
let's go.
So you need to decide what the purpose of this drive is and how it's going to function in your creative world. Is this just archiving?
Can it do both?
Sure.
I want it to be an archive. So basically everything I've ever shot in my life.
Okay.
But I also want it to be a working drive for remote editors.
You can do that as well. So archive and production.
Yes.
Okay. So this will work really well for archiving, especially within your local network, within your local environment, because you've got local network access, which is going to be your fastest connection, or direct access, which is even faster if that's possible.
Yeah.
And for local production, works great for that too.
Okay.
Maybe not editing directly off of, but pulling the data off of and then editing and then putting back, can work well for that.
Right.
For sharing, for cloud type of stuff, your bottleneck is your internet connection.
The speed of the internet connection.
Right. Because, going down is fast, going up for consumer connections is slow. It's usually maybe like 5% of your 5% or less of what your download speed is.
Okay.
So that might be a little bit of an issue, but you can still make that work. Like if you're doing proxying, if you're minimizing how big the stuff is, that can still work.
Are there services? Or like, what if I just paid you to do that?
Yeah, so that is an option. So you could use my server. Your initial upload would still be kind of slow, but once it's there, the download for your people would be fast because the connection at my server is it's called asymmetrical, 1 gig up, 1 gig down.
So that's not something I can just call up Spectrum like, hey, give me 1 up, 1 down, asymmetrical.
Can if you're willing to pay for it. But,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's usually I think a couple $100 a month or more.
Oh,
maybe more. I'm not sure. I've never.
Yeah, well,
I've never tried.
I've never even asked.
Yeah,
but I'm sure it's an option.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's some gamers out there.
Some people totally do that.
Right.
And if you're working on something here that you want to give the ability to, have fast upload and download, then maybe fiscally it makes sense to you, fiscally and time-wise, because the server is so close to you. That's right.
Yeah.
So time-wise, that might also make sense. So that's what I'm saying. This is where you need to decide on, what are your future goals going to be with this and how you're going to function. So we already know archiving, right?
Right.
And then possible and most likely production, both inside and outside the network. Here's where things start getting a little complicated. So this is probably out. This is really basic network attached storage connectivity, and you probably will still do some of this, but only for the initial, copying stuff over.
Yeah, like all that stuff in my bin in the garage. I know there's gonna be like a tedious time. It's gonna take a lot of time, but like I'm just gotta get it up.
Yeah.
So, okay, but let's say like just today alone, it's the 3rd time like doing a podcast like this. I think this is the 5th hour of footage just from today. So I already know we're close to a terabyte. And that's you know what I mean?
just of all the
Just
recordings.
today.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
today.
yeah. Really?
Well, because in the morning I did like 2.5. Then
Okay.
with Kev I did another like what hour? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's 3.5. This is 4.5. So it's like his 5th hour.
Right.
And it's only 2 cameras at 1080, right? So and you know the F2 whatever's on there, the GoPros,
So it adds up. Very
it adds
quickly.
up. That's what I mean. So
Yeah,
one
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
I'm looking at like if one project was 500 gigs.
Yeah.
So if today, this is a very generous estimation, but that's 1.5 terabytes a day. What kind of there's people out? I mean, that's probably how much terabytes is
So okay.
uploaded to YouTube
So
every minute.
I'm gonna just start throwing some stuff out that you're not gonna understand.
Do it. Go ahead. Tell me some complicated.
So your specific kind of need in the future, especially with this much data, would call for. So in the network world, we have Wi-Fi speeds. We have 100 meg, gigabit, and 10 gigabit. So originally, most home networks, the most standard network speed was 100 megabit. There might even have been 10. Super slow. And then what's standard now is called gigabit. And when I say standard, that's like standard for like the last 20, 25 years. The networking technology is like very slow moving.
Okay.
So what you would need for the kind of stuff that you would do and the amount of speed that you would need was called 10 gig network. And I don't know if you've ever seen like Linus Tech Tips, but he's
YouTube channel.
yeah. So he's a content creator, mostly reviews tech stuff, servers, gaming, does a lot of gaming stuff, all the graphics cards. I watch it, you know, for some of his reviews on Mac. He likes to dunk on Mac a lot.
Okay.
But then he's got guys that are definitely like, you know, Mac files. But he's done a tour of his home, and he's one of these guys. He's got, you know, a 10 gig network in his home, networking closet with that stuff. And then he would have a NAS like that in
Okay.
there. And then, you know, downstairs, he would physically plug into a jack on the wall, and then he could, you know, do his editing right there. Pull the stuff off the drive, put it back. It's super fast, super snappy. So that would be like, you know, an ultimate setup. And in some scenarios, there are companies that, you know, are outfitted with even faster networks. And I don't even know what that network is, but then they edit directly off the drives. I think actually his office, they do that.
Well, that's only because he has that 10 gigabyte connection.
Yeah. And then they have the money to, you know, throw at a server and you know, figure all the stuff out. And we're not there yet. But
Well, I mean, well, how much is that?
like tens of thousands of dollars easily.
I saw on the QNAP website. I'm like, when looking at all the products, I'm like, whoa, yeah.
Right.
There's some big price tags and big machine like hallways
Yeah.
type of setups. Okay.
You got a hallway here.
I do. All right. Second floor is mine.
So for your particular setup, you've got your QNAP, and then the QNAP has its own software built in. And, you know, they've got a great product, but honestly, I'm not a big fan of their software, of the interface, of what it offers, how it functions. I've used a couple different ones, and it's always felt kind of bloated to me.
Okay.
They have automatically kind of like an app store
Yeah,
where
yeah.
there's all these apps you can download and install, and then usually they're kind of like freemium, like you download and install it, but not all the features are there, and if you want more of the features, then you have to pay. And paying for products and services like that, it's not a bad thing because it usually comes with support. You can call someone if you've got problems. But it's kind of hard to know without having experience with those apps, like, you know, what do these do? How do they work? They usually don't have any instructions. And we've got a couple of these where when we reboot them, they take forever.
What, days?
Like 10, 20 minutes. The kind where you're sitting there like watching your watch and you're like, did this thing break? Do I need to like power cycle this again? Like what's, and with RAIDs, you got to be really careful. You don't want to mess with them and hard cycling them too often because it can mess up the RAID.
That's the thing. I feel like one common theme that came up is like the fragility almost
Yeah.
of these things, these disks that are spinning 24/7.
Yeah.
Well, are there SSDs for that, or like those replaceable drives, the 18 terabyte drive?
No,
you can't get like a.
So SSDs right now, as far as I know, Glenn was just asking me this. As far as I know, they only go up to about 400 terabytes. 4 terabytes.
That'll work.
They go up to like 4 terabytes, and I think they're like over $1,000 for that much.
For 4 terabytes.
Yeah. It's not, and not only that, the technology isn't there because once you start getting past the 2 terabyte limit, the way the technology is built, it gets more fragile, and they tend to have read-write issues more often. It may have changed since the last time I read up on it, but it's just not there.
I know NASA got some shit right now.
Probably.
It's from 400 terabyte.
But even
SSD,
even
like,
if you did have a bunch of SSDs in there, you still have the bottleneck of your network because your network speeds, even if it was 10 gig, still probably wouldn't be fast enough to really max out the speed of the drives. So your drives in there, RAID, still fine.
Okay.
Where I'm kind of leading you to that you have to decide on is whether you would want to stick with the QNAP interface, which there's nothing wrong with, and there's a lot of support and information out there because it's so common. Or alternatively, you can actually put a different OS on there, kind of like what I've got for. So I run Unraid, and the difference is Unraid, as the title suggests, is not RAID.
Yeah.
So RAID works
that.
by having multiple drives. You've got 2 right now, right?
Yeah.
So, and this adds a layer of complication because you only have 2.
I mean, I can get more. Like whatever I need to do.
Well, okay. Well, the reason why I say it adds a layer of complication is because when you're doing 2, then you would do what's called RAID 1. Is that right? And RAID 1 basically would just mirror the 2 drives.
Okay.
Okay. So you've got 2 18 terabytes. RAID 1 would make it 18 terabytes. And if this drive disappeared, then what you would need to do is you'd have to get a replacement and put that drive in, and then it would start, building it back up, and then you'd have your data again, right?
Okay.
And then ideally, you would have enough drives if you're doing a RAID setup to do RAID 5. It's been a while since I've done RAID, so I don't remember exactly how it works. But the main thing to know is that the data spans across the disks, right? The key advantage with that, besides the redundancy, is that because the data exists on multiple drives at the same time, it speeds up the read and write rate because it's in multiple places.
Okay.
The disadvantage is, let's say, God forbid, your house is burning down, and for some reason you can't pull the entire QNAP, but you could pull one drive, right? That one drive isn't going to do shit for you. It's not going to have usable data. You have to have all the drives because the data is spanned.
It's like
between,
distributed.
Yeah. And what some setups do is they'll have like span drives, and then they'll have an extra that's, just hanging out, not doing anything, no storage on it. And if one of these goes out, then that's what's called the hot swappable drive.
Right. I'm familiar with that.
Right. And then you would turn this drive on, and then this drive goes out, and then it would rebuild onto this drive. And the rebuilding, depending on how much data you have here, can take forever. And I think while it's rebuilding, you can't access the data, which is another, downfall of RAID.
Okay.
I mean, that's just how it is, and that's the world we live in. So Unraid, you can have one drive, and that's called a parity drive. Okay. And your other drives can only be as large as this one drive. So 18 terabytes is a lot. That's a big drive. So let's say you've got your 2 18 terabytes, right? Mm-hmm. And then the way this works is your 18 terabytes between these two is only equal to 18 terabytes.
Right.
Okay. And then if you add another drive, let's say you add a 10 terabyte drive, then you got 28 terabytes, right?
I would have 18, and 10.
Well, so this is a parity, so this doesn't count.
Oh, okay.
So the parity is just backup. It's similar to your RAID setup. One drive, depending on the RAID setup, one drive is your backup or redundancy, or a second drive. You can have sometimes 2 that are redundant. I think RAID 5, it's 2 drives. I don't remember. But the key with this is, let's say for my setup, you want to have storage on my server. You gave me a hard drive. I would plug it in my server, and I would dedicate that drive to just your files. And it would still be backed up on the Parity. And then let's say one day you're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to actually get, gigabit connection at home. I don't need to have your server anymore. Can I have my drive back? I'm like, yeah, sure. I had it too. All your files are on your drive. You could plug that into a computer outside of Unraid and read that data. So that's one of the primary advantages. Plus, with this setup, you can add whatever size drives as long as they're smaller than the Parity. This setup, all the drives have to be identical. Technically, they don't have to be the exact same drives, but you're supposed to have the exact same drives. So they should always be the Iron Wolf 18 terabyte drives every single time.
But see, how do I can't ever access like 60 terabytes at one time. Or, you know what I mean? Like, what if my Parity, I want that to be 100 terabytes? How do I do that?
What do you mean?
I have 100 terabytes that I want.
Well, you have to have enough drives to be 100 terabytes.
So I could do it though.
You could totally do that.
Okay.
You could do that with both these setups. But to do that with this setup, as you're growing, you have to add extra redundant drives. So you'd be losing extra drives as you're growing. That's the other disadvantage with RAID. As you build it, it gets more complicated, and then you keep losing drives to redundancy because of the way it's structured. With this, you can have just this one drive, and then you can add as many drives as you want.
So if I just bought 10, 18 terabyte Iron Wolves, right? Then I'd have 180 terabytes. But I'd have like 290s.
Well, you kind of get cut off by the amount of drives and ports and everything, but technically you could do it. Like with my system at work, I could get like a USB hub, and then I could plug in like 100 extra drives. You could possibly do, because I see USB on there, so you could possibly do it with that one. But at that point, you probably would want to do multiple servers. Like 100 terabytes is a lot.
Well, I mean, that's going to happen. So I just thinking like, now let me just bite the bullet and get that huge space. Like I'm looking at it like I'm going to buy this farm, this huge land. And I'm going to work it. So, and nothing's for sale. That's like, it's all little pieces. I just want.
So in that case, like if you're going to go that route, then like personally, if I needed that much space, what I would do with my setup is I would get a tower, like
like the one you built.
No, it would be
like a rack.
It would be a USB. I forget what the words are for it, but it would be a drive array tower that would just put hard drives in, and if you took that, it would be like an external drive you bought from Costco. You plug it into your computer, and a drive would show up. But you can put 8 drives in this. So when you plug it into your computer, 8 drives would show up. But where that works with this is then when you plug them into Unraid, Unraid sees those 8 drives and like, would you like to add these drives to the array? Yes? Okay. Now you have 80 more terabytes if they're all, 10 terabytes. So that's where like I was saying this gets a little more complicated with, me, because I have the ability to turn this into Unraid versus using the QNAP. And you can still use QNAP, but I'm not a big fan of RAID. The one downside of this versus RAID is because the data actually isn't spanned between all the drives, you don't get the advantage of that speed.
The read write.
Yeah, but you probably won't be
well, for my remote
editing
editors,
off of this.
Everyone is going to have a different bandwidth wherever they are, right?
Right. So the read and write speed won't matter for your remote editors.
Yeah.
And the base of the host, so the base software for the host, won't matter for your editors either, because I can pull off your sharing system no matter which one you go with. Which one you go with just depends on how much you want to expand this. That's what it really comes down to. If you want to just expand this with the drives that you have here and work with what QNAP gave you, then I would stay with QNAP and mostly use this for archiving and some in-house production work.
I'm not married to that. Obviously, it was sitting in a garage for like 8 months. You know what I mean? Like 9 months. So I'm more focused on the system that I can build.
Right.
If it means that I'm not even using that and I'm freaking putting that on eBay tomorrow, I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? There's nothing on there either.
So the other thing that is possible, and it just really comes down to time. But the other thing that's also possible is, let's say you just go with what this has, QNAP.
Yeah.
And you build a system on top of it. You start using it for your archiving and some reproduction. In the future, you know, you'd be like, hey, Matt, I want to build a server like yours. Can we do that? And then can we just move this stuff over? I'm like, yeah, sure. So that is also an option.
So based on my grandiose idea of a system where I have like 100 terabytes at my fingertips, just think 5 editors around the world have access to this 100 terabytes at any given time. What would I need for that?
So for that, you would need, I'm going to throw another bunch of words at you. You probably don't know.
Yeah.
You would need Docker. You'd need Nginx reverse proxy.
Joke's on you. I know what Docker is.
Do you?
No, I just watched it in a video and I was like, what? The NAS guy I was telling you about. Like, they're like, oh, you can use it as a Docker and virtual machine. And I was like, yeah, don't know what that is. But second time I heard it in the last 24 hours.
Yeah. So no, Docker is powerful. Do you know what a virtual machine is? Okay.
I listened to them talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I still don't know what that is.
Virtual machine is what what the words kind of invoke. So a virtual machine is a virtualized version of your phone or, my PC laptop, sitting in my desk at home that hasn't seen the light of day in a couple of years. You can even virtualize the Mac operating system. And basically what that entails is spinning that up on a host, a computer, and telling that software to, use a certain amount of resources. So, certain amount of CPU space, certain amount of RAM, certain amount of hard drive space, and then you can access it and, do stuff with it. So for us and many other companies like us, we have a server at our data center with lots of virtual machines and companies that use them for their business. So like we have a couple autoplexes that do that with us, and golf shop, and they have servers with us, and it's all invisible, all within existing around QNAP. Our QNAP we mostly use for archiving. But anyways, Docker eliminates a lot of the overhead that VMs, because let's say you're using a PC, but Final Cut, you are a fucking Final Cut god. Okay, but for some reason, I don't know why, you got into trouble and you can't use a Mac ever again.
Okay.
So you can't buy yourself a Mac.
Okay.
But Matt, and you're like, Matt, can you spin me up a Mac VM, a Mac virtual machine? I'm like, yeah, sure. And so I do that for you. You want to use Final Cut on a virtual machine, and to do that, you have to have all this extra overhead. You got to have all this RAM and CPU and hard drive space and a GPU, all this shit just to run Final Cut.
Yeah.
So what Docker does is eliminates all that extra need, and it kind of virtualizes the environment. So only that app is running in a virtual environment. So you can have multiple apps that have multiple requirements from different, because one of the problems with a lot of operating systems and apps is they have all these other software requirements. And as you start installing other apps, then the requirements of other apps start interfering with the requirements of other apps. And then eventually you have this system that is crashing and you got to debug it. So what Docker helps do is it eliminates that, because it creates this own little virtual environment. It's not a virtual machine, but it creates this virtual environment where all the requirements are met, but they don't overlap with other apps with the requirements.
That's Docker.
That's Docker.
So you're saying you could use Docker.
So you can use Docker on QNAP or Unraid. And that's how I learned Docker was because of Unraid. Because I started spinning this up, and then I'm like, I've heard of Docker before. I don't know what this is. Let's play with this. And I started playing with it. I was like, oh my God, like the whole world just changed when I learned Docker.
So it's setting up the environment that I need without me having to.
All these extra requirements or having a dedicated host. Like, so one of the primary examples is a lot of old school web developers out there. They want to have like, you know, a development website, and they want to have this other website, and, you know, a website for their wife and a website for this and that. So they'll go on to a host provider, and then they'll rent a whole bunch of different virtual machines, which gets expensive really fast.
Okay.
To have a website on every single one of those virtual machines. But if they understood Docker, then they could have one virtual machine with all of those websites on that one machine, and then that one machine can handle it all because it's not having to, like, you know, divvy up all these resources. And then with something like Nginx, then you can, you know, space the direction of those websites out. It's hard to explain Nginx.
But it sounds like, to me, it's just a super high efficiency, like a hack to somebody who doesn't have like for me, I don't have the resources to, let's say, have all that overhead, all those virtual machines to handle all this. But with a Docker, it's letting me do more with less.
Mm-hmm.
It's letting me, well, letting you, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like, realistically, I feel like I don't want to friggin' go down that rabbit hole. I tried on YouTube, and then I was like, this is one thing that is better if I just ask someone who's good at it. Someone who's already, like you, who's already doing it.
Right.
And for me, it's like, how can I just lay out my wish? You know what I mean? And then I'm just going to trust you. So it's like, all right, I want to be able to access 100 terabytes, not just me, but 5 other editors.
Yeah. Well, so
and then whatever you say, I'm like, all right, Doc.
to get
When's
to
the
get
surgery
to
date?
the
You
goal.
know what I mean?
Yeah. So because there are a lot of people much smarter than I out there on the internet with way more time than I even understand is possible. There are folks that have built platforms like Google Drive, like Dropbox, and all those.
I had to move my mic stand to prop up this.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other things out there, just super crazy, and most of them have figured out means, like ways to make money out of it, doing like it's called like freemium, where they provide most of the service, but you know there's a couple key things that if you want those, you gotta pay. Or if you want support. I mean, that's the biggest thing with a lot of software. You want support, you gotta pay, and that makes sense. You know
that.
And updates, security. Oh my God, security is like, it's so huge.
And you know, on this NAS, I should really, you know, I gotta shout him out because like he knows what he's doing, and I'm sure you would get a lot from it. So I'll just pull him up from my YouTube history real quick. But one of the things he's saying is like, I think the video title was something like 12 things you can do with a NAS that most people don't do. That's when I heard Docker, virtual machine, mining for crypto.
Yeah.
This other one, like, it's more like a philanthropic thing. Like you can basically give your disk space to like science experiments or something.
Oh, I did that for COVID. Yeah, I actually leased out some of my space for.
We gotta shout out this guy. And then when you talk about freemium, he's like, ask me your questions on our website and we'll answer them when we can. Dude answered like in 5 minutes. And I was like, Aloha from Hawaii, something, you know what I mean? Differentiator.
Yeah.
And then I said my whole thing, and he was like, hand waving from rainy England or something like that, right? And then he answered my question.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Most of these guys have figured out how to make money at it, which is smart because then you can support it, then you can do updates. And with the updates comes security updates, and security is huge. You don't want someone getting into your files and, you know, encrypting the stuff. And
oh yeah, and see, that's the other thing he was talking about too, was like hooking it up to your security system, your security camera system, right? Because Ring's going to charge you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah,
right.
He was just like making sense. Like, I got some Rings, and they're giving me those notifications. You sure you don't want to buy more storage?
Right.
And I'm like, wait, I have one of
that
these,
crap.
but it's not like that's why I bought this piece. It'd be great if I could use this in the way that I thought, but it's kind of becoming apparent to me that it's not.
Yeah.
Because I have too much terabytes. Unless I were to sacrifice, say, okay, all that stuff all those 5 years in Japan, maybe I just get a different QNAP for that, or what? You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Maybe I just keep one like for my professional clients.
It's usually a combination of figuring out your archiving workflow. So in the photo realm, what I learned, and I never did this, but what you're supposed to do is when you're done all of your editing, you delete all of your RAWs, and then you make JPEGs of the unused photos. So you culled everything. You've got your edited photos that you sent your clients, and then you've got your unedited photos that you didn't send. And so what you're supposed to do is you take all those unedited photos, you turn them into JPEGs. Put that on your NAS, put your edited final photos on your NAS, delete all the RAWs. So you've cut your storage needs down by maybe half or a quarter.
Yeah.
But, ring, client calls up, find out that, the brother's cousin that was at the wedding died and they're actually really special to them. You still have those raw photos you can go through.
See, I've figured out some hacks as far as with Final Cut, I'm moving over to DaVinci. But with Final Cut, ways to greatly reduce the size of that library, which is like stupid. How much files that program makes on your computer just by editing.
Yeah, I'm struggling right now to see if this networking solution I'm using actually works with Final Cut because it's been uploading and downloading for days.
Okay,
Trying to
keep me in the loop.
Yeah,
because I will jump shit to that, but I'm thinking. Right now, immediate step that I could take, the biggest client I have right now to date, I have about 7. I've just passed the 7 terabyte mark.
with them.
So that I can handle that with these 2 18 terabyte drives I have already, right? So at least
7 terabytes with one client.
Yeah. So I could at least address that.
Yeah,
I could make, I'll give up the Japan stuff, the personal stuff that I have that I want to dive back into, kind of have like this, do a talking head like this, talking about my Japan experience, but then I'm overlaying all that B-roll from my experience in Japan. I can go back, revisit these things. Like when I had my GH2. GH2, I had to do the firmware hack. You know what I mean? Like change the bit rate, all kinds of stuff back then. But now I want to revisit that and talk about it. When I went to the area affected by the tsunami, 2011.
Right.
I have all that footage.
And having all that archive.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So where I was going with the Docker stuff and the gold with all that.
Real quick, I'm going to shout out this homie.
Yeah, what's his name?
NAS Compress. NAS Compares. Sorry, Compress.
All right.
NAS Compress.
Hey,
Yep.
compression is important too.
Yeah, so this dude, all he does is talk about
I've got a sprained ankle. Compression.
I'm gonna just share it with you so you can check it out later. But yeah, I'll make that concession, like just to get this part, the moneymaker, right? Clients to work, I can at least fit that on those if I need to, and even if we do a terabyte, with just that, maybe a terabyte a month, it's actually less, but that at least I know can handle it. Like that is the most immediate solution to what I want to do.
I think to get up and running and get this working, probably the thing that makes the most sense is to stay with QNAP.
Yeah.
With the interface, get Docker up and running. And then as your needs grow, then you can hit me up and we can probably build you a server like what I've got that you can upgrade, move around, do what you need to.
Oh, you mean like do this now and then I can upgrade to the server?
Yeah. And probably then you would have 2 servers. You'd have this and you could do this for just archiving.
So this is a server?
Yeah. This is totally a server.
You just got served. Well, I want to serve people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like remote editors.
The direction I was going with Docker is you can spin up a couple different services that will help direct the traffic. You'll have Nginx, that's like your traffic cop. You've got Portainer, that's your orchestrator for the Dockers. And then I would suggest running File Runner. So shout out to Nextcloud. I was using Nextcloud for years. Nextcloud is awesome. But I had a lot of problems with the...
When you say file runner, what is that?
That's a platform. So it's like comparable to Dropbox.
You know what's funny is how I feel so young and like new to the game, even though I've been like doing my own file management and stuff. But I've been doing it in my little bubble of what works for what I gotta do.
Right.
And it works.
Yeah.
But I know it's ripe for like improvement, efficiency upgrades, all of this stuff.
And then you start hearing, you're like, what?
Yeah, like
is
everything
this?
you just listed, I'm like,
No, I mean, if you got someone in here that saw you're talking
kind
about,
of, but I don't.
yeah, if you got someone in here that started talking about Kubernetes, I'd be the same way, because I'd be like, what, you can do that? Oh my God.
And you know what? That's all right. I've been humbled. I always say, like, in this situation, learning a foreign language, living in a foreign land is the most humbling thing, because you're every single day you're face to face with your inefficiencies. And how like you're not where you can be.
Right.
And so if you're not comfortable in that uncomfortable position, you're not going to thrive. You're not going to progress.
Yeah.
You're not going to progress.
You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, you got to get humbled.
Yeah.
And like, that's one of the greatest takeaways for me in Japan is like being in a place where I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I still went there,
But you
with
couldn't
a
express
very
yourself
good
fully.
base. But it's the same thing. Like what me and Kevin were talking about earlier. I was
Yeah.
talking about latency. Like I have an idea. I want it to come out.
Right.
But I have to jump all these hurdles and connect these things and
Right.
figure this. And what did you say, Docker? Like that's in between. That's friction that I want to eliminate.
Yeah.
Same thing if it's just like simple as, hey, what day did you say you wanted to go to the fireworks show? But I can't say that. You know what I mean? Something as simple as like, yeah, what train station are we meeting? Like, unless you've got that kind of like, sit down, you're not the shit.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And you've really like internalized like, there's more to do, there's more to learn.
Right.
I feel like once you embrace that, then that's when you start to grow. Same
Right.
thing, martial arts,
Yeah.
language
No, yeah.
proficiency.
I mean, tech.
Shit like this, I'm like, all right, I'm not even a white belt. You know what I mean? I like just went like this and looked in the dojo.
membership.
I'm like, oh damn. Okay. You know what I mean? It's about to get ugly, but you know.
Don't worry. I'll make sure that no one gives you too many black eyes and pull you through this. Don't
Hey,
worry.
you need to take those hits.
Oh yeah, no,
You know what I
I
mean?
fully believe that too.
Like
I've definitely taken a few.
That if I could have spent
Right.
whatever
Yeah.
lesson. But in conclusion, we've got a piece of. Sorry, I almost said it's a computer. We've got a computer over there.
I'm gonna upgrade you. It's a server. You bought a server.
Okay. Yes, I bought a server
Yeah.
that I can have remote editors hook up to.
Mm-hmm.
Content that I create on my side.
Yes.
But also here's the other part that I didn't mention earlier, but I want like not user generated, but client generated content. So if I ask my client like, hey,
Yeah, totally.
give me your branding package, right? Give me your branding package that includes all your logos, PNG files, every color, shape.
So I have access to my server right now, and the platform that I was talking about, I could send you a link right this second from my phone.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, here's a folder. That project we shot last week, can you upload all the stuff that you did? And then you could upload it. I could do that within, a couple seconds right now. Yeah, you have a server, bro. And the difference between a NAS and a server is you can run VMs and services, apps, all kinds of stuff. NAS is just file storage. And
That's this level right here.
that's this level. And this is what I did for years.
Okay.
This is what I had. This is what I did. And I would do like little servers on the side that would talk to it and do stuff. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And I exposed myself and I got hacked a couple times, my kicky days.
You got hacked?
Oh, yeah. Well, technically, my ex-girlfriend got hacked. I'm not going to go into that. But I felt really stupid. I opened up some ports and left really easy passwords, and someone got in and defaced the server I set up for her because I had a media system. And luckily, her now husband is also very, tech worthy and figured it out and took care of it.
I feel like people like Matt need to walk around just like, even at Safeway, Costco, whatever, with a little badge on their freaking shirt right here. Like certified tech man. You know what I mean? Or like a little cape or something. How much everybody's everyday life is dependent on tech today.
Oh,
but
it's
how
insane. Yeah.
little tech literacy people have.
Yeah.
I'm coming from a place feeling super humbled, right? But like we all need it and use it, but we don't know it.
And the crazy
We're
thing
so
is,
illiterate.
we're in this place where illiterate people can hack other people. And it happens every day. And for a while, I was actually going after the scammers that would do that.
Yeah.
And I learned very quickly that these folks don't know shit. But they learned the skills to be able to, and they knew enough to be able to get into people's bank accounts and, pull down all their money. I had one guy that had lost like hundreds of thousands of dollars. I unfortunately got to him too late. Yeah, we're in a weird place with technology now. And learning some of the basics. For anybody who's listening, get a password manager. Oh my God.
What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 exclamation point.
Yeah, 2FA is very helpful, but making all your passwords different. Yes, please. Oh my God.
Kev, you got any questions over there, buddy? Come on. Kev's a very technical guy as well. Hands-on, likes to build things, DIY. I'm sure our little conversation over here, Sensei and Grasshopper, anything?
Some things you gotta leave to the pros.
Yeah.
You gotta find somebody who you trust, or somebody who has great reviews or responds to you. If we didn't have a Matt, you'd want to find somebody who's going to respond to your emails, is going to answer your questions, and then you have to go with help, because guys like us will never be able to get to the level to be like, all right, well, I safely built this server.
That's why Lionel Messi is not a goalkeeper, right? That's why there's positions on a team.
Right.
And that's why you should not try to be what you're not.
Right. Well, but to also give you guys cred, the only difference between these two guys and me is they upgraded from accidental IT to, IT pro and actually like learning the stuff and spending the time and, being a virgin for many years than should have been.
Yeah, experience. You have time in this, and it's like, that's invaluable.
I think, this, although I've met you and become acquainted with you through a different one of your skills, this is the better. I don't want to say better, because then it sounds like you can't do photos, but like maybe even more valuable skills.
Yeah,
in today's landscape.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I know a lot of photographers. I don't know anybody who I can have this conversation with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just okay. I live on an island. We all do. But also, Kevin and I were talking about earlier about like when you go on a YouTube search, which is what we do nowadays. When we need to be educated, we go on YouTube.
Yeah.
A lot of those people who are educating things are kind of putting a entertainment wrapping around it. They're sort of bowing to the gods of YouTube and the algorithm to like augment their educational package in a way that's digestible.
They're playing to their audience. Yeah.
But what we really need is this straight dope. This straight raw and cut. And also it's way better that you align yourself up, you team up with, or even just straight up hire that person who's good at it, versus spending your next week and a half binging on YouTube, going down rabbit holes to do something that'll be like 20% of what that person who's really good at it would do.
Yeah, I definitely have a few that I reference all the time on YouTube.
It's great. I'm not.
Yeah, if somebody saw a podcast of somebody asking questions and how they want to apply those questions, say this server, what this is my need, and then you bring in an expert that knows how to fix you up and get all your needs met, whether you have the right equipment or not. With the link or with as long as your contacts are out there and your service is out there, so many other people can go reach out to you and say, hey, can you help me? Or who do you recommend? Or, it's like, it just opens up. It's like, oh, well, I don't know what to do. Oh, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe it's good to get to know what it is, but maybe I should just go to an expert. But how do I know who the experts are? And it's like, oh, well, here's an expert. He just explained how to do that setup, your archive.
Last time we talked about this was just like before you came, but like we had this conversation, and I think now, second iteration of the conversation, if you will, that's kind of the need. It's almost like not just a repository of questions. Like you go to any website, there's a fuck you. There's a fuck you. Yeah.
There's a fuck you.
There's a fuck. There's a fuck.
Go to the vacuum. We'll answer you.
Right? Apple, you ain't talking to somebody in one click. You know what I mean?
No, you're not talking.
Everybody's directing you towards, which is actually smart, but it's not live.
Or
Also,
it might not answer your question. There could be 100 questions,
Yeah.
but it might not answer all your
you'll
questions.
be directed to something. You're at the mercy of the algorithm again. What keywords do we have in your question, in your query? We'll match it up with what we think is like. Again, it's not that interface of, hey Matt, I need some way to get 5 remote editors to access a 100 terabyte vault. Basically, I want to be a perfect world, Minority Report. What Minority Report was to us when it came out, this is what the editing process to me is like waving a wand, or even like just talking. The way we kind of have a lot of like voice recognition software, even the dictation software when I'm texting now, I like using that. But imagine that kind of, that's what I do, and the output instead of a text message is actual minute-long video, right? So I'll just say things, and my voice input will end up in the output of a video. But for now, I have this bunch of terabytes that are just sitting here dormant that I could then hire people, editors, which I've done. I use Fiverr a lot. And there's a couple other platforms that I found some good people through, editors that I trust. And I'm like, why haven't I done this sooner? Why haven't I leveraged this connectivity, right? Not only the connectivity,
I've been telling Glenn that too.
But also not just the connectivity, but also like $8 a video. There's one guy, I don't even know what country he's from, but he charges $8 a video for $8 for a 1 minute tall like Instagram video with captions. You know the kind of captions, emojis and stuff in it, right? Colored captions, like just looking at you, you'll see one video like that, right? That was brought from like short format platforms like TikTok, for example, Instagram Shorts,
huge.
YouTube Shorts, right?
Yeah.
So now that's created.
Most people are watching their videos on their toilet and they don't want to make noise.
No, exactly. Or in a meeting, right? In the middle of a podcast. Oh shit!
Or next to your wife and you don't want her to hear what you're watching.
Dude, why do you think I got one of those screens? You know what I mean? But now there's somebody in the world who do it for $8 for one. And I had 2 Fiverr editors before that. One did it for $7 a video, and one did it for $17 a video. And I gave them each like 8 videos.
We got to be real about it. SEO. You turn all that text, all the things that we're saying right now, all the words, all the name drops, SEO.
See, that's another one question I have as a content creator is how much, that phrase like art imitates life and life imitates art, something to that. It's like a mirror. They're just like that forever mirror.
Sometimes a black
art
mirror.
and life just keep showing each other.
Sometimes a black mirror, but that's not racial.
Black Mirror, no, that's one of the best TV shows ever. I feel like that is kind of happening too when it comes to content creation. Yeah. Content creators are seeing what content consumers want. Then content consumer, and then you know what? Everybody's a content consumer and a content creator at the same time. So me, when I'm like making something or making something for someone, I have to be very conscious about being a consumer, and then what a consumer behavior, as well as like what the platform is going to favor. And then those things might take priority over what the actual message is.
Right. Yeah.
And then now I'm like,
well, that's where you're living in the bubble, and then you've created Hollywood.
Well, but if I'm creating at the same time, that's a forever battle. That balance is like
right. You don't want to get your message lost in the creative process, and the need for feeding yourself and your kids and your wife. But
as you can see, they don't even go to sleep.
That's a balance.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway,
we do what we got to do.
All right. Good stuff, Matt. Thanks.
You understand, right?
Yeah.
Everything that I said,
bro. Yeah. All I need is a virtual machine and a Docker and an accelerator to run the file management of my RAID NAS.
We
server.
we can definitely figure out some systems for you right now.
I want to unraid.
I know I threw
No.
a lot of stuff at you.
All that's going to happen is my goal, whatever needs to happen, I want you involved. And whatever needs to happen will happen.
Well, I can get you spun up with a few quick things tonight
Okay.
before I take off because we're not gonna be able to do everything tonight.
Yeah.
But I'll get some connections made so I've got remote access to be able to help you out.
oh, see why you motherfucking just do shit from like a wizard. All right.
I know Glenn shows out when I do that. I'll connect and control his computer from like the other side, and he's like, "This is scary."
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
By the way, this is it. Thank you. This is the QNAP podcast follow-up. Since then, since the podcast, which we've settled down, here's an important note. The best stuff comes when the cameras are off. The conversation between Matt, Kevin, and I, after Matt and I were having a conversation, the conversation that followed, the next 20 minutes, I felt were the most valuable. I had turned off the recordings, I turned off the mics, you know what I mean? Like, this whole thing here is still in the works, and really just getting into repetitions was the important part. That was the whole purpose of today. I mean, we did a shoot here, 2-person podcast setup with 2 real estate professional hammers in the morning, and then Kevin and I were here to set up this piece of equipment right here, as well as brainstorm and talk about future endeavors and how we could add more value in the market. Followed up by Matt coming and sharing his own skill expertise in a field that all of us are connected to, yet so few of us are literate in. And I feel this is a big discrepancy, and a huge discrepancy could lead to a huge opportunity. This discrepancy between tech literacy and tech dependability. We're all dependent on tech, but how much of us are literate in tech? Today, a huge gaping hole in my tech literacy was revealed by Matt. This is just a quick follow-up, and I wanted to say that the following 20 minutes after the cameras were off, this conversation, this candid conversation that us 3 had, that's what I wish would be captured in this form. I feel like once the lights, camera, action, all of this stuff is on, you know, it's like a switch that turns on in everybody. It's almost like a performance switch. When you relieve that pressure, when you take that pressure out, I feel there's a more natural, I hate to say the word, but it's, I think in this case, validated, a more authentic experience that happens, a more authentic conversation that happens after that. Regardless, we're getting used to this. We're getting our reps in. We're getting our repetitions in. Matt's gone through. He's taking the QNAP from this room. I think he's taking it downstairs. He's setting things up. Let's go see, because I guess it's not going to be in here. What is this thing? I don't know. He signed in. This is a follow-up video, Matt. What are you doing?
I am figuring out how to access your QNAP remotely and to do it securely so I don't, expose you to the bad guys on the internet. Does this get used only for the QNAP?
I only got this. Because the video I watched was like, you should get whatever power source just in case shit happens. Keep it going.
So I would suggest, and what I'm offering to do, is to take this downstairs and have your Wi-Fi and everything plugged into this, including your QNAP, which will exist downstairs.
Okay.
And then that way, if power goes out, you still have internet and you still have QNAP.
Hey, Matt, I was just saying, the best conversations happen when the cameras turn off.
This is true.
And no, like when after we were done and then you meet Kevin, that following 20 minutes,
Yeah.
I was like, damn, You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
No, no, yeah.
I was like, that's good.
Pro photo tip: when you're taking the photos of the couple, take the photo, tell them they're good, keep the camera up, because that's when the best photos are. Is when they think it's okay to be themselves.
That's also when the video guy is rolling. I'm waiting for that before and after the photo, the clicks. Because that's when they're like them.
Yep.
Not like posing. They're not trying. I think same thing for video. Like, okay, random, but what if we could just hide this shit? I feel like this turns a switch on in people.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like, performance.
There's a story about the
Turn that. Like if you make cameras invisible.
Candid Camera guy. That's how Candid Camera got started the show.
Oh, you got on the camera? Or...
Because he was, or I think, recording soldiers in the military after war. And he noticed as soon as the cameras were off, or he told them they're off, the stories came out. So then he started telling them that it was off, but it kept recording. And then he went to a mode where he actually just, hid the cameras entirely and was recording. And then that led into Candid Camera, this TV show.
Okay. Damn it.
It's not a new concept, unfortunately, but
yeah, no,
human nature.
Nothing's new.